Adma Namaste and welcome everyone to the next session of our Esoteric Study Club. So we have already discussed about the fundamentals of esoteric astrology, about the 12 hierarchies. We also discussed about the 3 crosses and the signs Aries, Pisces, and Aquarius. So today we will be focusing on Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Scorpio. So from today onwards, we will try to study 3 signs per session so we can finish in another 2 sessions. And then we will have most probably one more extra session where we discuss about the science of triangles. So let's begin with a short invocation. Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. If you feel any pain or discomfort, just bring your awareness to that area and mentally say, I let go. I am not the body. The body is just a vehicle of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize your whole body, all your thoughts and emotions disintegrate and disappear. And what remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Now bring your awareness higher to your crown chakra located on top of your head. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, to Grandmaster Chuakok Sui, to Lord Mahaguruji Meling, and all the great ones, all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. Thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help and protection, inner healing and physical healing, good health and happiness, prosperity and abundance, spirituality and illumination. Thank you for illuminating our minds. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big smile. Atma Namaste again. So let's begin the session. We already studied the signs Aries, Pisces, and Aquarius. So we will continue studying about the zodiacal signs with Capricorn, also known as the goat. So its cardinal complement is Cancer. The rays are Ray 7, Ray 1, Ray 3. Orthodox ruler is Saturn. Esoteric ruler is also Saturn. Hierarchical ruler is Venus. So let's study this sign in more detail. So based on the book, this is one of the most difficult signs about which to write. For it, as you know, is the most mysterious sign of all the 12. It is the sign of the goat, which seeks its sustenance in the most rocky and arid of the world's places, and it therefore relates man to the mineral kingdom. It is also the sign of the crocodiles, which live half in the water and half on dry land. It is spiritually the sign of the unicorn, which is the fighting and triumphant creature of the ancient myth. If you read the book written by Grandmaster Chuakok Sui, this is about how he started pranic healing and how he developed pranic healing, and Arhatic Yoga, Kriya Shakti, and all the courses, like his autobiography. In a sense, there is some when he's talking about higher levels of Arhatic, there is some reference to the unicorn. Under the symbolism of the above creatures, this sign gives us a rather complete picture of man with his feet upon the earth, yet running free and climbing to the heights of worldly ambition or of spiritual aspiration in search of what he realizes at any particular time to be his major need. So Capricorn is an earth sign, is one of the signs in the cardinal cross. So it's believed to be responsible, serious, practical, stubborn, and sometimes cold. Air sign relies on senses and is practical, is patient, is resourceful, strength, can be rigid. So we will further discuss about this. So it's hardworking also, it's motivated. Capricorn likes to be successful, it's economical. On a lower side, a Capricornian person can step on other people to be successful, and they could be a bit materialistic. It is interesting to study the three signs in which the animals have horns. Aries, as you see here, the first picture, the downturned horns of the ram, signifying the coming into manifestation, the involutionary cycle, and the experience of the cardinal cross as it expresses the will to manifest of God. If you remember when we were discussing about the sign Aries, we said the whole cycle of reincarnation and the idea of reincarnation gets initiated in the sign Aries. So that's why the horns are pointing downwards. Taurus, the upturned horns of the bull, you see in the second picture, with the circle below, depicting the push of man, the bull of God, towards the goal of illumination and the emergence of the soul from the bondage with the two horns, duality, protecting the eye of light in the center of the bull's forehead. This is the single eye of the New Testament, which makes the whole body to be full of light. So this single eye, also referring to inner eye. So, which it says if you have single eye, or if the eye is single eye, the whole body will be filled with light. And last one, Capricorn, the goat, related particularly and closely to Aries, but hiding the symbolism of the unicorn, in which the two horns and the single eye are blended and depicted by the long straight horn of the unicorn in the center of the forehead. Okay, again, in the book, Grandmaster explains or touch upon it a little bit when he's talking about the higher levels of Arhatic Yoga. In the book, The Origin of Modern Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga. Okay, so we have still a single eye, and we have the horns of Aries, and then which hides the symbolism of the unicorn, where the horn comes out of the forehead, because this eye is located in the forehead. Behind all the above lies the dual mystery of Leo. For Leo is, as far as humanity is concerned, the key or clue to the entire zodiac, and around the constellation Leo, two great mysteries are found. We will discuss about Leo in the next session in more detail. The first mystery is connected with the Sphinx. Number one, the mystery of the Sphinx, connected with the relation of Leo and Virgo, and tied up with the secret of the solar angels. This is not the mystery of soul and form, but the mystery of the higher and the lower mind and their relation to each other. We discussed about the Sphinx a bit in the previous sessions, which is also connected with the fixed cross. And number two, the mystery of the lion and the unicorn. This secret is preserved for us in the ancient nursery rhyme about the lion and the unicorn going up to town, and contains in a peculiar way the secret of initiation and the going up of the human being to the portal of admittance into the hierarchy, as well as the mystic raising of which Masonry holds the key. This deals with the emergence of the consciousness of the initiates, white and one-pointed, and the defeat of the king of beasts, the personality, leading to the triumph of group and world consciousness, of selfless and illumination over self-consciousness and selfishness. In the true rendition of this ancient myth, the king of beasts is blinded and killed by the piercing of his eye and heart by the long horn of the unicorn. Later in the next session, when we discuss about Leo, you will see that in Leo, the person on the lower side, the person could be selfish, but is a sign that the person realizes their individual consciousness or self-consciousness. Okay, so the mystery of lion and unicorn. When lion leads to unicorn, or when the horn of the unicorn pierces the heart and the eye. It here becomes apparent that three mysteries are hidden in the three horned signs. So we already discussed about these three, Aries, Taurus, and Capricorn. So three mysteries. Number one, the mystery of God the Father, creation. Number two, the mystery of God the Son, redemption. And number three, the mystery of God the Holy Spirit, liberation. So the first one, creation, connected with Aries, the second one connected with Taurus, and the third one, Capricorn. It might also be pointed out here that it is the will of the Father aspect manifesting through Aries that governs Shambhala, the loving desire of the Son, which attracts to the hierarchy, and the permeating intelligent activity of the Holy Spirit, which animates that center of the divine life, which we call humanity. So we have Aries connected with will, connected with Shambhala. Taurus connected with love, hierarchy. And Capricorn, intelligence, humanity. So the ram leads us into the creative life of earth and into the darkness of matter. This is the blue of midnight. The bull leads into the places of desire in search of wrathful satisfaction. This is the red of greed and anger, changing eventually into the golden light of illumination. The goat leads us into arid ways in search of food and water. This is the need for green, but the goat is equal also to climbing to the mountain top. So this summarizes what we just discussed. So Aries, Taurus, and Capricorn are the great transformers under the great creative plan. They are in the nature of catalysts. Each of them opens the door into one of the three divine centers of expression, which are the symbols in the body of the planetary logos. Of the three higher centers in man, the head, the heart, the throat. Aries opens the door into Shambhala, when the experience of Taurus and Capricorn has been undergone. This is connected with the head center. Taurus opened the door into the hierarchy when the significance of Gemini and Leo is understood, and the first two initiations can therefore be taken, connected with the heart center. Capricorn and connected with love. So as we said, Aries is also connected with will, Taurus with love, Capricorn with intelligence. Capricorn opens the door into the hierarchy in a higher aspect when the last three initiations can be undergone and the significance of Scorpio and of Virgo is understood, connected with the throat center. Now, the keynotes of this sign are all indicative of a crystallization process. This concretizing faculty of Capricorn can be considered in several ways. First of all, Capricorn is an earth sign, and in it we have expressed the densest point of concrete materialization, of which the human soul is capable. Man is then of the earth, earthy, and is what the New Testament calls the first Adam. In this sense, Capricorn holds in itself the seeds of death and finality, the death which takes place finally and eventually in Pisces. So the book says ponder on this. When crystallization has reached a certain degree of density and so-called hardness, it is easily shattered and destroyed, and man, born in Capricorn, then brings about his own destruction. This is due to his fundamentally materialistic nature plus the blows of fate, which are the enactments of the law of karma. Again and again, a certain measure of concreteness is achieved, only again to undergo destruction prior to the release of the life and the rebuilding of the form. So, because Capricorn is connected with the earth sign, it could be quite materialistic and connected with form. And eventually, when it's crystallized, there is also seeds of destruction in it, which eventually in Pisces, the death happens and then liberation happens, something like that. Secondly, Capricorn is ever the sign of conclusion, and of this the mountaintop is the symbol, for it marks the point beyond which further ascent in any particular life cycle is not possible. Capricorn is therefore the sign of what has been called esoterically periodic arresting. Progress becomes impossible under the existing forms, and there has to be the descent into the valley of pain, despair, and death before a fresh attempt to scale and heights take place. The attempt today to climb Mount Everest is amazingly symbolic, and it is being watched with much interest by the hierarchy. For in this effort, we see the attempt of humanity to achieve the top of the mountain, whose height has defeated all efforts. So symbolically, because Capricorn is connected with goat, it's also connected with the mountaintop. So it's like symbolically going up to the mountaintop. And the book says the attempt of climbing Mount Everest is amazingly symbolic and is watched by the hierarchy, and for the same reason. But and this is the matter of moment and of interest when humanity emerges into the light and the relative glory of the new civilization, they will at the same time conquer this last remaining summit, that which is of the densest materiality and which is the consummation of earthly grandeur, which will remain, but it will be beneath the feet of humanity. So it's like conquering um, the last or the densest materiality in the Capricorn sign. Thirdly, Capricorn is, as a consequence of all the above, the sign in which is inaugurated a new cycle of effort, whether this effort is in connection with the individual man or with the initiate. Effort, strain, struggle, the fight with the forces native to the underworld, or the strenuous conditions entailed by the test of discipleship or initiation. These are distinctive of experience in Capricorn. In ancient days, as you may have heard, there were only 10 signs. And at that time, Capricorn marked the end of the zodiacal wheel and not Pisces, as is at this time the case. The two signs of Aquarius and Pisces were not incorporated in the signs for the simple and sufficient reason that humanity could not respond to their peculiar influences. The vehicles of contact and the mechanisms for responses were not adequately developed. Originally, there were 8 signs, then there were 10, and now 12. So we will discuss about it further in the book just after this. Initially, there were only 10 signs, first 8 and then 10 and then 12, because when humanity was in the earlier stages, we were not very responsive to the other signs. And as you know, we already discussed about Aquarius, which is like the group consciousness, and the Pisces, which is for world savior and liberation. So we were not very responsive to those energies yet. Therefore, we astrology only had 10 signs to discuss. And now we have 12. So it is also believed that Capricorn is associated with initiation, especially the third one. Okay, so it's like hinted in theosophy that initiations happen in the sign Capricorn. Okay, so now let's discuss about the concept of development of astrology. So in Lemurian days, during the early period of animal man and before humanity appeared on Earth, in the interim period of development, 8 signs influenced the planet and the kingdoms of nature found upon it. There was no response to the influences of Leo and Virgo. The mystery of the Sphinx did not exist, and these 2 signs were not then part of the zodiacal wheel. So this was even when individualization had not yet happened, because later in the next session we will discuss that Leo is connected with the individual consciousness, with the self. So when we were not yet individualized, so there, of course, there would be no response to Leo and Virgo. Leo and Virgo are quite connected. Then individualization took place and the seed of Christhood was planted in man. And these 2 signs began to influence humanity. And gradually that influence was recognized, and the zodiac was then known to have 10 signs, and the mutable cross dominated. So we discussed about crosses earlier in the previous sessions. The mutable cross is also known as the common cross. Okay, it's the cross of the masses. And when the person develops to a certain degree, then only goes to the fixed cross. And the cardinal cross is the cross of the initiates. Okay, number 2, in Atlantean days, man had become so responsive to the planetary and solar influence that the door of initiation into hierarchical experience was opened, and 2 more signs were added. These 2 signs were the higher correspondence of Leo and Virgo, and were the polar opposites of these 2, Aquarius and Pisces. Their influence became active and effective, and thus they formed part of the zodiacal wheel because man began to respond to their potencies. It then became possible for the fixed cross to function esoterically in the life of humanity, and the first reversals of the wheel in the life of the advanced men of the period took place. So I think this is quite clear. So as humanity started to evolve more and more, then the influence of Aquarius and Pisces was also received by humanity. And then we had the advancement of men, and then moving to the fixed cross became possible. And the advanced men moved to the fixed cross and reversed the cycle. So it was this reversal which was the true cause of the great contest or battle between the lords of the dark, as they are called in the secret doctrine, and the lords of light, a contest which is today persisting. Certain men then reached a stage of discipleship wherein they could consciously mount the fixed cross and be prepared for a major initiation. This, the forces of materiality and of obstruction, as they are sometimes called, fought, and the battle was fought out and conditioned in the sign Scorpio. So basically, that battle started when humanity started to evolve, and then there were certain people who were already moving up in the cycle of spirituality and discipleship, and then they didn't want to be materialistic anymore. Like they were moving towards spirituality, and therefore there was a battle because the forces of materiality didn't want this to happen. So from there, we have the battle of lords of the dark phase and the lords of light in Atlantean days. If you read the book The Solar System, there is some study about different races and sub races. So there is also a study of the Atlantean race. Okay, now today in Orient times, a similar conflict upon a higher turn of the spiral is taking place. The reason is that certain world disciples and initiates have reached a point in their unfoldment wherein they are ready to mount the cardinal cross and take some of the higher initiations. So the conflict is on between humanity under the control of the lords of materiality and the hierarchy under the control of the forces of light and love. And right before our eyes, the battle is being waged. You will note, therefore, that if the um, concentrated forces of the cardinal cross are definitely potent at this time, as they are, the battle is terrific. Because, number one, humanity as a whole is in a state of turmoil prior to a great step forward in self-conscious unfoldment, and in the expression of the sense of responsibility, which is the first flower and fruit of self-conscious awareness. This fact is responsible for sweeping into the conflict in a peculiar and pronounced manner the forces of Cancer, involutionary in nature, of Leo, concerned with individualization, and of Gemini, expressive of man's essential duality. There is a quote by Grandmaster in which he says, after the storm, there will be stillness and more growth. So basically, what the book is saying is we are now in a condition of turmoil because we are going to take a great step forward in self-consciousness unfoldment. So therefore, now we are experiencing that storm, and after this storm, there will be greater development, greater growth and stillness. Number two, the disciples of the world today and advanced humanity are equally in a state of turmoil. They are being tested and tried prior to taking a major step forward. In some cases, this will be the taking of the first initiation, and in others, the second. This is brought about by and brings in the forces of Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, plus a general pervasive influence coming from Gemini. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio are connected with the fixed cross. So not only humanity is in the state of turmoil, but also the disciples who are treading the fixed cross are also in a state of turmoil because it's prior to a big step for them as well. They want to take either the first initiation or the second. And number three, the initiates in their turn are also being subjected to the impact of energies from Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces, an inflow of force from each of the three crosses. These three forces enable the initiates to take the third initiation. You will note that the world disciples are related to the mass of men through their responsiveness to influences emanating from Gemini and to each other through Scorpio. Now, we will discuss about Scorpio in this session itself. This is one of the important signs connected with tests and trials. So this produces in them the capacity to respond to tests, to a sense of the vision through the illumined eye of Taurus, and to use their power of individuality through a developed personality and through the potency of Leo. Initiates are brought into relation to the world disciples through the constellation Scorpio, to the hierarchical center through Capricorn, and to the mass through Pisces, the sign of the world saviors. So you see, because as a whole, humanity as a mass, disciples and initiates, we are all going to take a big step forward in our development and evolution. We are now in a state of turmoil, and as you see, we have a lot of calamities happening, man-made, natural. All of these are tests and trials before that major step forward on all three levels, as a mass of humanity, as disciples to take initiation 1 or 2, and as the initiates to take initiation 3. Okay, now the exoteric and the esoteric planetary rulers of Capricorn are the same, and Saturn rules the career of the man in this sign, no matter whether he is on the ordinary or the reversed wheel, or whether he is on the mutable or the fixed cross. When he has taken the third initiation and can consciously mount the cardinal cross, he is then released from the ruling of Saturn and comes under the influence of Venus, who is governor or ruler of the hierarchy, which is that of the crocodile. Okay, so the exoteric ruler is Saturn, the esoteric ruler is Saturn, and the hierarchical ruler is Venus. Capricorn, so when a person is still not yet in the spiritual path as a mass of humanity, and if a person is still in the mutable cross, is under the influence of Saturn. When the person is more advanced and is under the influence of fixed cross, is still ruled by Saturn, but in a more esoteric way, deeper manner. And when the person has taken the third initiation and is already under the influence of the cardinal cross, then the person will be under the influence of Venus more. Capricorn is an earth sign, and because the third and fifth rays work preeminently through this sign, embodying the third major aspect of divinity, active intelligence, plus that of its subsidiary power, the fifth ray of mind. These pour through Capricorn to Saturn and to Venus, and so reach our planet, the Earth. Saturn is one of the most potent of the four lords of karma and forces man to face up to the past and in the present to prepare for the future. So that's why usually Saturn is concerned or connected with karma, as we have heard. So here we see Saturn as exoteric and Saturn as esoteric. Okay, Saturn is also connected with like father aspect or with father aspect, with mentor, authority. All of this is connected with Saturn also. Disciplinarian, confines, limits. On esoteric side, improvement achieved through hardship and endurance. Discipline and a practical approach, moderation, right measuring of resources, time and energy. Saturn is also connected with time, responsibility and accountability, wisdom gained through experience. So we say Saturn is connected with karma. So when we face challenges and we learn through the challenge, then we gain wisdom. So that's why wisdom gained through experience. So through Saturn and Venus, therefore, Capricorn is connected with Libra and also with Gemini and Taurus. And these four constellations, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, and Capricorn, constitute a potent quaternary of energies, and between them produce those conditions and situations which will enable the initiate to demonstrate his readiness and capacity for initiation. Now, how we say like through Saturn and Venus, for example, Capricorn is connected with Libra, Gemini, Taurus. So the way they are connected is these planets might be either exoteric, esoteric, or hierarchical ruler of Libra, Gemini, and Taurus. And that's how different signs get connected with each other. And also we always need to study the opposite sign as well. Okay, so they are called the guardians of the four secrets. Taurus guards the secret of light and confers illumination upon the initiate. Gemini guards the mystery or secret of duality and presents the initiate with a word which leads to the fusion of the greater pairs of opposites. Libra guards the secret of balance and equilibrium, and finally speaks the word which releases the initiate from the power of the lords of karma. We are going to discuss about Libra, Gemini, and Taurus as we are moving on to the signs later on. Capricorn guards the secret of the soul itself, and this it reveals to the initiate at the time of the third initiation. This is sometimes called the secret of the hidden glory. So as we said, it is believed that Capricorn is connected with initiation, especially the third. So the third and fifth rays are peculiarly active upon the path of discipleship, just as the sixth and fourth are dominant upon the path of evolution, and the first and seventh upon the path of initiation. The second ray controls and dominates all the other rays. So this is like a table to summarize path of evolution. The rays which are more active are 6 and 4. Planets are Mars and Mercury. Constellations related to this is Aries, Gemini, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio. Path of discipleship, we have dominant rays 3 and 5, planets, Venus and Saturn, as we have in the Capricorn. And constellations, Gemini, Sagittarius, Capricorn. Path of initiation, rays active are 1 and 7, planets, Vulcan, Uranus, Pluto, and constellation, Taurus, Libra, Pisces. Okay, now you will notice from the above tabulations 1 or 2 interesting points. These should be carefully considered by all astrologers after determining the approximate place of the subject upon the evolutionary path in one or other of its 3 divisions. First, that the constellation Gemini appears twice on account of its close connection with the 4th creative hierarchy, which is the human hierarchy. Second, that during the period of the mutable cross, 5 constellations are concerned with the experience of man upon the path of daily life, of constant rebirth and of karmic difficulty. 4 of them lead to Scorpio, in which sign comes the point of the reversal of the will. Okay, so if you see in the path of evolution, which is day-to-day life of humanity, like the masses, we have 5 constellations active and towards the mutable cross. Scorpio is not connected with the mutable cross, but these 4 lead to Scorpio, and Aries is also cardinal cross, but the experience of the mutable cross remain leads to Scorpio, where we take the test and then the reversal of the wheel and moving to the fixed cross happens. Third, that on the path of discipleship, 3 constellation control and lead up to the activity of Capricorn, at which time initiation becomes possible. Fourth, on the path of initiation, the activity of all the 3 crosses is felt simultaneously through the medium of the released powers of Taurus, Libra, and Pisces. So as you remember previously we discussed, when we are already in the cardinal cross, which is the cross of initiation, we have the synthesis of all the influences of the crosses. So that's why here we have signs related to all the 3 crosses. So it has been occultly said that a vision of these powers and their many weaving lines seen as rivers and streams of light is given to the initiate from the mountain top of Capricorn, once that summit has been reached. It is at the transfiguration initiation that this vision appears before the eyes of the astounded disciple. The great experiences upon the various mountain tops as related in the Bible have all to do with Capricorn. So if you read Bible and any other like spiritual book, many things revealed which are like symbolic and they're like parables. So there are many stories about that happened on the mountaintop. So the book is saying those are all connected with Capricorn. For example, Moses, the lawgiver on Mount Sinai, is Saturn in Capricorn, imposing the law of karma upon the people. A clue to the significance of the Jewish people as a karmic clearing house can be found here. Ponder on those words, a karmic clearing house. The Mount of Transfiguration in the New Testament is Venus in Capricorn, when love and mind and will meet in the person of the Christ, and he was transfigured before all men. So the 3 energies, love, light, and power, or love, mind, and will meet in the person, the Christ, and he was transfigured. At the same time, he received the vision of the Father and of what he had to do as he went up to Jerusalem, the place of death, and likewise the city of peace. This Jerusalem is Pisces. In Aquarius, Christ put his disciples in touch with the man bearing a pitcher of water. So, a man bearing a pitcher of water depicting Aquarius actually. So Aquarius. and in the upper room introduce them to union and unity under the symbolism of the communion feast. So you see a lot of stories we read. If with the understanding of esoteric astrology we read them, we may understand much more deeper. For that feast, humanity is today preparing, as we saw when studying the last constellation. The astrological significance of the New Testament is as yet little understood. Christ was born in Capricorn, fulfilled the law under Saturn, initiated the era of intelligent brotherhood under Venus, and is the perfect example of the Capricornian initiate who becomes the world server in Aquarius and the world savior in Pisces, thus completing the round of the zodiac and able to say triumphantly in Pisces, "It is finished." So we said Pisces leads to liberation, leads to death, but this death is liberation. So in Pisces, he triumphantly says, "It is finished." The polar opposite to Capricorn is Cancer. And as you have been taught, these two signs are the two great gates of the zodiac, one pointing the door into incarnation, into mass life, and into human experience, whilst the other opens the door into the life of the spirit, into the life of the kingdom of God, the life and purposes of the hierarchy of our planet. Cancer admits the soul into the world center, which we call humanity. Capricorn admits the soul into conscious participation in the life of that world center, which we call the hierarchy. So if you remember, we discussed about this when we were discussing about Aries, that the whole idea or thought of incarnation gets initiated in Aries, but we come into incarnation as a form in Cancer. And Cancer is the opposite sign of Capricorn. And both of them are connected with gates. One is the gate into the world, into incarnation, and one is, or into humanity, and another one is the gate into hierarchy and is the gate of initiation. As man passes around and around the zodiac in the ordinary manner, he continually and consciously enters into life in Cancer, the constellation under which the law of rebirth is applied and administered. But it is only on the reversed zodiac that the man learns to pass with equally conscious purpose through the gate of Capricorn. 5 times he has to pass through that gate in full waking consciousness. And these 5 happenings are frequently called the 5 major initiations. A study of the characteristics and qualities of the man who is born in the sign Capricorn will reveal a great deal and end the human family, because the Capricornian can express all the worst of which a man is capable and all the best. It is a sign of extremes, and this because at the time there were only 10 signs. Capricorn was the first on the ordinary wheel and the last on the reversed wheel. So because initially when there were 10 signs, Capricorn was the first and the last, it is actually the sign of extremes. So a person who is born in Capricorn can express the worst and also can express the best. Depends on where this person is located in this cycle of evolution or the path of evolution. So this is obvious esoterically. All world saviors and sun gods are born in Capricorn, but also the very worst type of man, hard, materialistic, cruel, proud, selfishly ambitious, and egoistic. So you see, we have the extremes. We have the pure materialistic, selfish person, and we also have the world saviors, the initiates, the people who are advanced in their spiritual life and take initiation. Now, Capricorn rules the knees, and this is symbolically true, for only when the Capricornian subject learns to kneel in all humility and with his knees upon the rocky mountain top to offer his heart and life to the soul and to human service, can he be permitted to pass through the door of initiation and be entrusted with the secrets of life. So as we discussed in previous sessions, each of these signs are connected with one human organ. So Capricorn is connected with the knees. Now in exoteric astrology, they usually connect it very materialistically to say, or literally. So like Capricorn is connected with the knees. So if something wrong, or I don't know, certain, for example, um, planet is there which is falling or whatever, the knee may be affected. But in esoteric astrology, we look at it more symbolically. So symbolically, knee refers to humility, kneeling down in humility, putting the knees on the rocky mountain top and offering the heart and life to the higher soul. This soul means higher soul, and to human service. Only on his knees can he go through that door. As long as he arrogantly stands where he has not earned the right to stand, he can never safely be given the information which is imparted to all true initiates. So if we want to be given the secrets of initiation, of evolution, of life, we need to be humble. And that is connected with Capricorn and the knees and the initiation. The ancient mode of pilgrimage in India, by which the devotee passed or progressed from one holy place to another upon his knees, is indicative of this deep need of the Capricornian for humility. India is ruled by Capricorn, and India knows this truth. So, the relationship between Capricorn and knees is basically connected with development of humility. The symbolism underlying the astrological fact that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, whilst the power of the moon is lessened in that sign, and Jupiter and Neptune both fall, is significantly beautiful and instructive. Mars is the god of war, the producer of conflicts, and in this earthly sign, Mars triumphs in the early stages of the evolution of the fourth creative hierarchy and in the life history of the undeveloped and average man. So that's why Mars is exalted, especially in the earlier life. Because it's in a person who is not yet spiritually developed, Capricorn can lead to materialism. So that's why Mars also gets exalted. Materialism, the fight for the satisfaction of personal ambitions, and the conflict with higher spiritual tendencies goes steadily forward, and this most material of all the signs is the battleground of the old established order and habits, and the new and higher inclinations and tendencies. India, governed by Capricorn, has been a battlefield right down the ages. But as evolution proceeds, the power of the moon, which is the symbol and ruler of form, grows less and less, and the man upon the reversed wheel is steadily freeing himself from the control of matter. So as the person is spiritually developing, is trying to free himself or herself from the power of the matter or the control of the matter. So that's why moon is lessened. Jupiter, which has been the ruler of Pisces and also of Aquarius, falls in this sign. This fall must be studied from two angles. For Jupiter, in its lowest aspect, gives the fulfillment of desire and satisfied demand, whilst in its highest, Jupiter is the outgoing expression of love, which attracts magnetically to itself that which is desired, this time the good of the whole. In Capricorn, therefore, Jupiter reaches its lowest point of expression in the densest material aspect, and then as the love and selflessness triumph, this lowest aspect vanishes and disappears. It is to the fall of the highest aspect that the symbolism refers, and then later to the fall or disappearance of all that is base and low. Love is fallen and blinded when desire is rampant. Desire vanishes when love triumphs. Neptune is often spoken of as falling in this sign, and for the same reasons. Neptune is the god of the waters and is esoterically related to Pisces. It should be noted that both Neptune and Jupiter are exalted in Cancer, the great sign wherein the desire for incarnation finds its fulfillment. The power of both is lessened in Virgo, where the first sign of the Christ consciousness are felt. Both fall in Capricorn when the Christ life and consciousness come to full fruition. So Cancer is the opposite of Capricorn, as we said. So this Neptune and Jupiter are exalted in Cancer and fall in Capricorn when we have the full fruition. So in Capricorn, we have the triumph of matter. It reaches its densest and most concrete expression, but this triumph is followed by that of spirit. There is full expression of the earthy nature in Capricorn, but also immense spiritual possibilities. So as we said, Capricorn is the sign of extremes. We have extreme materialistic. This is the most materialistic sign, but we also have immense spiritual possibilities. India, for instance, expresses a widespread degradation, but at the same time, the heights of spiritual attainments. A study of India, her history, characteristics, and spiritual qualities will reveal much on the influences and possibilities of this sign. The triplicity into which each sign is divided and which we call the decanates is of particular interest in the case of Capricorn. So if you remember, we said decanate, when we divide that sign period into three, we call each of these one decanate. So two sets of rulers for the three decanates are available. According to Alan Leo, we have Saturn, and then Venus, and then Mercury. According to Safariel, we have Jupiter, then Mars, and then the Sun. According to the book, of these two, the first is the more correct and more esoteric, which means Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. The book says the true rulers are Saturn, Venus, and the Sun. And if you remember previously, we said Sun and Mercury are actually one. I would remind you that Mercury and Sun are interchangeable, but that in this case, the Sun stands exoterically for Mercury and esoterically for a hidden planet. If you again remember, we said Sun and Moon veils another planet. Saturn relates Capricorn to the previous sign Aquarius upon the ordinary wheel, and Jupiter, exoterically understood, relates Capricorn to Sagittarius upon the reversing wheel. It will be obvious to all esotericists that the Sun is the obvious ruler of the third decanate, veiling as it does a hidden and deeply significant planet, and being that which reveals divinity at the time of the third initiation. You will note how, in this great sign of initiation, Saturn reveals the nature of the third aspect of divinity, the nature of intelligent substance. Venus reveals the nature of the second aspect, which is consciousness or intelligent love, whilst the Sun, the physical Sun, and the heart of the Sun together reveal the synthesis of the two. Saturn, as we said, is the exoteric and esoteric ruler, and Venus, the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn. Now, the key words upon the ordinary wheel are, and the word said, let ambition rule and let the door stand wide. This is connected with the materialistic aspect of Capricorn. Here we have the key to the evolutionary urge, to the secret of rebirth, and of that word which reverberates from Cancer to Capricorn. The door of initiation stands ever open, but for eons of time, man prefers the open door in Cancer. Ambition urges him on from life to life until he has discovered the worthlessness of all earthly gratification. Gradually, then, spiritual ambition and a desire for liberation takes the place of worldly ambition and become an impelling impulse until finally the moment arrives when a true sense of reality supersedes both earthly and spiritual ambition. The man can then say with truth, "Lost am I in light supernal, yet on that light I turn my back." For him there remains now no goal but service. He therefore passes back through the gate of Cancer, but with his consciousness held steadily in the sign Aquarius. From being the world initiate in Capricorn, he becomes an incarnated world server in Aquarius and later a world savior in Pisces. So means initially, when the man is still in the mutable cross, this door refers to the door of reincarnation, connecting it to Cancer. And ambition is more worldly and materialistic until the person learns that all materialistic things are not permanent and spirituality is more important. And then this person grows spiritually, takes the initiation in Capricorn, but still comes back, this time because of serving the world. So becomes world server in Aquarius and world savior in Pisces. So that will end our study of Capricorn. Now we will move to the study of Sagittarius, also known as the Archer. The rays are ray 6, ray 5, ray 4. Orthodox ruler is Jupiter. Esoteric ruler is Earth. This sign is, as you know, a peculiarly human sign and is connected in a definite manner with the appearance of humanity upon our earth. There are three of the zodiacal signs which are more closely connected with man than are any of the others. These are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. One moment. Okay. So there are three of zodiacal signs which are more closely connected with man than any of the others. These are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. In one particular but not yet provable manner, they are related to the three aspects of body, soul, and spirit. So here there is a chart, a table showing the qualities of Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. So Leo is the lion, the man, self-conscious, connected with human soul, individualization, personality. It's on the fixed cross. It's a fire. It has fire element, selfishness, evolution. Then we have Sagittarius, the sun, centaur, the archer, focused consciousness, emotional nature, spiritual human soul, discipleship, egoic focus. It's in the mutable cross, fire element connected with struggle, the final path. And we have Aquarius, which is the water carrier, the server connected with group consciousness, spiritual soul initiation, that it's in the fixed cross, connected with universal unity, air sign, service, liberation. So Sagittarius is sometimes depicted as an archer on a white horse, and a study of the meaning of this symbolism will reveal a great deal of inner teaching. Earlier in Atlantean days, from which period we have inherited what we know about astrology, the sign was frequently depicted by the centaur, the fabulous animal which was half a man and half a horse. The horse symbolism dominated Atlantean myth and symbols. The archer on the white horse, which is the more strictly Aryan symbol for this sign, signifies the orientation of the man towards a definite goal. The man is then not part of the horse, but it's freed from identification with it and is the controlling factor. Have you seen this image of, I think Lord Krishna, if I'm not mistaken, riding 4 horses on a chariot, and he has blue skin. So each of these 4 horses are connected with one of our vehicles or bodies, like the physical body, energy body, emotional body, mental body. And the inner meaning could be when and the Lord Krishna with the blue skin connected with the higher soul. So when the soul gains control over the horses or the bodies, the soul can go where the soul wants to go. And when the horses take control over the body, then the horses will go over the soul. Sorry, the horses will go where the horses want. So previously, probably in Atlantean days, because humanity was not yet developed spiritually this much, so the sign was half a man, half a horse. But in Aryan days, now it's an archer sitting on a white horse. So this already shows that the man is not part of the horse anymore. So probably the man or the soul has more control over the horse or the body. So the definite goal of the centaur, which is the satisfaction of desire and animal incentives, becomes in the later stages the goal of initiation, which meets with satisfaction in Capricorn after the preliminary work has been done in Sagittarius. So now we are trying to control the desire, not being controlled by the desire. The keynote of the centaur is ambition. The keynote of the archer is aspiration and direction, and both are expressions of human goals, but one is of the personality and the other of the soul. So it's like, again, if the soul has control over the horses, the soul can go where is the direction or the purpose of the soul, the incarnation, the sole purpose. But if the horses gain control over the soul, the horses will go where the horses want. So that's why the keynote is now changed to aspiration and direction. From ambition to aspiration, from selfishness to an intense desire for selflessness, from individual one-pointed self-interest in Leo to the one-pointed of the disciple in Sagittarius, and thence to initiation in Capricorn. It is interesting to note that the astrological symbol for this sign currently used is simply the arrow, with a fragment of the bow depicted. Now there is no more horse in it also. The archer as well as the centaur have dropped out of the picture, and this is largely because the emphasis or focus of human living today is not based upon the objective outer facts of life, upon the physical plane, but upon some form of inner focus or emphasis, which varies from the many stages of astral and emotional ambition to spiritual aspiration, and from the activities of the lower mind bent upon selfish interest to the illumination of the same mind through focus upon the soul. So because our focus has changed from focusing on material outer things to more inner or self or soul purpose, that's why even the horse is dropped. Okay, so Sagittarius shoots arrows of truth, looks upward to its goal, its ideal, um, it's idealistic, goal-oriented, and it's connected by Jupiter, we will discuss later, which brings optimism, broad-mindedness. Negative qualities could be too um, too optimistic sometimes. So therefore, a person who is born in Sagittarius may take things easily, may be too optimistic and sometimes not on time because like thinks everything will work out. Therefore, sometimes procrastinate. So it's a fire sign. Fire brings the enthusiasm. The keynotes of Sagittarius are 5 in number. 1, attached or fused duality, the centaur. Unattached duality, the archer. Freedom or one-pointedness, the bow and arrow. 2, human ambition leading eventually to spiritual aspiration. 3, a clear shaft of light which is the intuitive and focused attitude of the pledged disciple. 4. The returning arrow of the intuition, as it is sometimes called, for it is the shaft of the arrow of aspiration, which returns to the sender as the arrow of the intuition. Sagittarius is one of the intuitive signs, for only the intuition will suffice to carry a man to the foot of the mountain of initiation in Capricorn. And 5. Idealism, which is the power to see the vision and to direct one's course towards it. This is the work of Mars, the expression of the sixth ray. So a study of the charts of the human family at all the different stages from the time of the mutable cross experience wherein the personality is built up, constructed, developed, and integrated to the final crucifixion of the personality upon the fixed cross of the heavens will reveal that every time the man finds himself under the influence of Sagittarius, it is with the objective of orienting himself to some new and higher objective, with the task of refocusing himself towards a higher goal, and with the unfoldment of some basic and directing purpose. So Sagittarius, as we said, is the sign of purpose, is the sign of goal orientation. These developing purposes may range all the way from purely animal desire through selfish human ambition to the struggle of the aspiring disciple or initiate in order to achieve the needed liberation towards which the entire evolutionary process has impelled him. It is interesting in this connection to trace the unfolding of the human consciousness through the influence of the energies let loose through the various zodiacal signs. Okay, so whatever the goal is, whether it's purely selfish, materialistic, or the goal is spiritual, Sagittarius gives that one pointedness. So the book says, it is interesting in this connection to trace the unfolding of the human consciousness through the influence of the energies let loose through the various zodiacal signs. So, 1. Instinct, governing desire, connected with Cancer, mass unevolved consciousness. The keyword is I desire. 2. Intellect, governing ambition, connected with Leo, individual consciousness. The keyword is I know. 3. Intuition, governing aspiration, connected with Sagittarius, soul consciousness in early stages. Initiation 1 and 2, keyword is I vision. 4. Illumination, governing intuition, connected with Capricorn, soul consciousness in later stages, and the keyword is I realize. Number 5, inspiration, governing service, connected with Aquarius, connected with group consciousness, and the keyword is I go forth. And number 6, identification, governing liberation, connected with Pisces, divine consciousness. I and Father are one, which leads to liberation. So in these signs, Cancer, Leo, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, the ones we just discussed here, you have the 6 signs which constitute the 6-pointed star of the human or fourth creative hierarchy. Cancer and Pisces making the 2 extremes. Cancer is the beginning of incarnations, like coming into the form as we discussed. And Pisces is the last, the death, the liberation. So they are the 2 extremes. And then all the others together, they create 6-pointed star. The crab symbolizes imprisonment, the hard shell and the rocks under which the crab ever takes shelter. And the fish signifies freedom. In between, in Leo, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius come the 4 stages of personality development, struggle with the pairs of opposites, and finally release into full spiritual service. In connection with the development of the intellect into the intuition and its consummation as the divine aspiration of the personality. So we have the struggles, and finally in Aquarius, we have group consciousness and service, and then in Pisces, we have freedom. The following ideas may be found useful. Stage 1, wherein the intellect becomes dominant and powerful and controls eventually the emotional nature. Stage 2, wherein the intellect is illumined by the light of the soul. The emphasis is laid upon the struggle of the personality to release itself from the grip of lower desire, in the first case, and in the second, to release itself from surrounding world glamour, which is revealed when soul light is thrown into it, via the reflecting and illumined mind. In stage 1, the power of the trained reasoning and rationalizing mind is called into activity by the soul. In the other, the illumination of the soul must pour into the mind and is then reflected like a searchlight onto the astral plane. So initially in stage 1, there is lots of lower desires and emotions. So the power of the mind and intellect is called upon by the soul so that we can gain control over the emotional nature. And once that is conquered, in the second stage, the illumination or the intuition is, is pouring through and work like a searchlight. This takes place upon the probationary path and is called the experience of the disciple in the depths or the valleys. In Sagittarius, the intellect, which has been developed, used, and finally illumined, becomes sensitive to a still higher type of mental experience. And to this we give the name of intuitive perception. There comes flashes of light upon problems, a distant yet possible vision of attainment is seen. The man begins to climb out of the depth to which he has descended in Scorpio, and sees ahead of him the mountain in Capricorn, which he knows he must eventually climb. He walks no longer in the dark, for he sees what he has to do, and he therefore makes rapid progress and travels fast upon the way. So, because intellect gives its place to intuitive perception, then the person starts to see things, to see the goal, to see the purpose of the soul, and to see the mountain of the Capricorn, which he eventually needs to climb and take the initiation. So he flies from point to point, searching for the arrows which he has discharged. He has, figuratively speaking, to dismount constantly from his white horse, the developed and purified personality, and find where the arrows of intuitional aspiration will take him. He travels upon the wings of the soul. Note the relationship to the winged feet of Mercury, the messenger of the gods, and becomes in his own personality himself the winged god. Mercury, as you know, governs Gemini, the polar opposite of Sagittarius. This he does until he has established a balanced relationship between the personality and the soul and can function as either at any desired moment with equal facility. This takes place upon the path of discipleship and is called the experience of the disciple upon the plains of earth. For the path between the pairs of opposites runs straight and level, leaving the depth of personality experience and the heights of soul experience on either side. Now, I want to explain something. As you see, we are moving clockwise now. We moved from Aries to Pisces to Aquarius and Capricorn and Sagittarius. But you will see as we are discussing about the path of discipleship, which happens in the fixed cross, we are saying like after developing intuition in Sagittarius, we will go to Capricorn and take the initiation. And you see, it's like going now counterclockwise because when we are in the mutable cross and we pass in a clockwise direction, we are still gaining experience. We are still learning. We are still experiencing, every incarnation. We are gaining experience. And only when we become more developed and we go to the path of discipleship and then we go to basically we move from the mutable cross to the fixed cross, and when the reorientation happens, then only we are moving towards the path of taking initiation 1, 2, and eventually 3, and then move to the cardinal cross. So that's, I don't want you to get confused with the direction. we are moving clockwise, and suddenly when it reaches to path of discipleship and how the soul grows, we change the direction and go counterclockwise. This is because of the reorientation happens when from the mutable cross we go to fixed cross. So in Capricorn, the initiate learns to realize the meaning of the growing light which greets his progress as he climbs upward to the mountaintop. So you see here, we develop the intuition, the light aspect, and then when we go to Capricorn, we are moving upward to the mountaintop. The flashes of intuition with which he is becoming familiar change into the blazing and constant light of the soul. As you know, Sagittarius is one of the four arms of the mutable cross. An idea of the general symbology of this cross from the quality angle can be gained if we give the two sets of characteristics which distinguish the man upon the cross, both unevolved man and the aspirant to divinity. So that's why even in the beginning we discussed it's very important to know for whom we are reading the chart. If the person is in the mutable cross, if the person is in the fixed cross and is a disciple or path, like leading the path of discipleship, or the person is an initiate and is already in the cardinal cross. Because the way they affect us, these signs and even the planets affecting us is different. So we might list these as follows, finding for each arm a distinctive phrase. In connection with the above, it is interesting to note that the twins set apart and unattached in Gemini. So because Sagittarius is one of the arms of the mutable cross, so we will discuss here all the four signs connected with the mutable cross. We will see what happens or what is the effect when the person is an unevolved man and when a person is an evolved man. Gemini, changeableness, instability, interplay. Sagittarius, ambitious desire, direction, orientation. But this desire is more of selfish desire. Virgo, material life, the cherishing of an idea. Pisces, sensation, mediumship, fluidity. We said, if you remember, Pisces is sensitive. Evolved man, Gemini is recognition of soul and form, soul interplay. Sagittarius, one-pointed spiritual aspiration, disciples. Virgo, the mother of the Christ child, gestation. Pisces, the world savior, mediatorship. So from mediumship goes to mediatorship. The ruler of Sagittarius from the orthodox angle is Jupiter. And from the standpoint of the path of discipleship, it is the earth itself. Mars governs this sign from the standpoint of the hierarchies involved. So, exoteric ruler is Jupiter, esoteric ruler is Mars, esoteric ruler is Earth, hierarchical ruler is Mars. The most interesting fact which emerges as we study the mutable cross as a whole is connected with the rulers of all the four signs. So all these four signs that we discussed, now the rulers of all the four signs. From the point of view of Orthodox astrology, only two planets rule or govern all the four signs. These are Jupiter and Mercury. Mercury governs Gemini and Virgo, whilst Jupiter governs Sagittarius and Pisces. The reason for this is obvious if you study the nature of the rays which express themselves through these signs. Mercury is the agent or the messenger of the fourth ray of harmony through conflicts, while Jupiter is the medium for expression of the second ray of love wisdom. These two rays govern the mass of men upon the mutable cross and are closely concerned with the mass incarnation of the fourth creative hierarchy. Their function is to fuse and blend into one cooperative whole, the great dualities expressing themselves through the fourth kingdom in nature. The significance of this will be obvious. It is easily apparent how, through the influences of Mercury and Jupiter, material desire can be transmuted into divine love. And the conflict, which is the distinguishing characteristic of the human family, can be instrumental in resolving dissonance into harmony. So because mutable cross is connected with mass of humanity right now, and exoterically, because most, like the majority, is not yet still is not yet in the disciple path of discipleship yet. So exoterically, we consider the two rulers, Jupiter and Mercury, governing the whole humanity, being in the mutable cross. And Mercury is connected with fourth ray, harmony through conflict. Jupiter, second ray, love. So that's how these two are trying to help to bring the conflicts in humanity into harmony, and also to transmute the desires, material desires, into love. The definite pattern and direction of this process has to take form upon the mutable cross before the energies of the fixed cross can change the ambitious, selfish man into the selfless disciple. So these two trying to prepare the humanity and the individuals to go to the fixed cross. And there they can really change the ambitious, selfish man into selfless disciple. All this has perforce to be initiated upon the mutable cross, which is essentially and significantly the cross of the mutable, fluidic, restless mind. And it is on the cross that the mind nature is finally developed and begins its integrating control of the personality. If you remember, we said the first quality that humanity develops is intelligence aspect in the mutable cross. In the fixed cross, the goal is to develop the love aspect, and in the cardinal cross, the power aspect or will aspect of the soul. When this process is proceeding, the mutable cross experience is over and the cross of discipleship begins to play its part. The case is quite different in connection with the subjective side of unfoldment, and esoterically, the disciple who finds himself in incarnation under the influence of the mutable cross in his personality life, whilst he as a soul is upon the fixed cross, comes under the directed energy of four planets, three of which are non-sacred planets. Usually these four supersede or rather begin to dominate the influence of Mercury and Jupiter, giving greater facility of expression and exerting that influence which will bring the personality into right relation to the soul. For that is essentially the task of the fixed cross and the goal of the disciple. Now, if you remember, we discussed that when we say if a person is still not yet a disciple and is still threading the mutable cross, doesn't mean that they are only being born in the four signs connected with mutable cross. They may be born in signs of the fixed cross, or if a person is already in the path of discipleship and is already treading the fixed cross, doesn't mean that they only get born in the signs connected with the fixed cross. So here it says, if a person is already in the path of discipleship and is treading the path of the fixed cross, get born in one of the signs of the mutable cross, then they are no longer being controlled by Mercury and Jupiter much, but they will be controlled by the esoteric rulers connected with the signs of the mutable cross. Okay, so as we said, the exoteric ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, and the esoteric ruler is Earth. Now let's study this a bit deeper. So Jupiter is connected with broad-mindedness, is generous, religious, idealistic, goal-oriented, optimistic. So there is a possibility that a person who is still in the mutable cross and being controlled by the Jupiter becomes too optimistic and sometimes a bit naive or too idealistic, too religious. And too optimistic means thinks everything will work out, everything will be fine. So sometimes they won't be on time, lack of restraint. Being too idealistic can lead to fanaticism sometimes. So what Earth can bring to this is, as the person is growing and going towards the path of discipleship, because Earth is the esoteric ruler, the influence becomes more and more. So here, Earth can help a Sagittarian person to become more practical. So that too optimism, too much optimism, too much idealism becomes more practical, more grounded, ability to adapt to changing conditions, being more resourceful, being more efficient. So that is what Earth can bring into the table as the esoteric ruler. So it is in connection with the planets governing Sagittarius exoterically and esoterically that an idea can easily be gained of the complexity of the forces with which every disciple has to be content, and the significance of the ray forces which pour into the and through him. Take, for example, the constellation which we are now considering, and remember that the same basic streams of energy will have to be noted in connection with every other sign in which a man may take incarnation. Okay, so basically now the book is giving us a guideline or a way to read charts. So in whichever chart we are reading, we need to consider all these signs, all these factors that we are going to discuss now. So you may take note of that, and as we are reading each sign, you may try to create your own table. And at the end, when you read each person's or your chart, take note of these things which are quite important. First one is the sun sign, which we discussed this earlier when we were beginning the study of esoteric astrology. So the sun sign, as we discussed, it represents now, present time. So in the case of Sagittarius, in this case, Sagittarius conditions circumstances indicating inheritance and forcing the environment to be declarative in connection with the subject. Number two, we need to also study the rising sign. As you remember, we said this is the goal, this is the purpose, this shows the future. The ascendant can be one of the other 11 signs. So whichever person's chart we are reading, the sun sign may be Sagittarius, but rising sign might be something else. We need to see what is that. Then which cross this is related to. First of all, the sun sign is related to, or the person is related to. So the mutable cross, the four energies which meet at the midway point and have a united and definite effect upon the subject. The same statement applies to the other two crosses. So Sagittarius is the mutable cross, but we need to see what is the sun sign of the person, which cross is connected with, and also the person in his or her path of evolution, which cross they are leading. Are they not yet in the spiritual path, they are still in the mutable cross, or they are in the path of discipleship, they are related to the fixed cross. And then we need to study the orthodox planets. So these conditions the personality, the incarnated soul. In this case, we have Mercury and Jupiter. So in the case of Sagittarius, we have Mercury and Jupiter. The 12 houses governed by the planets are likewise of prime importance from the angle of transmitted energy. Number 5, we need to study the esoteric planet of whichever sign we are reading. These bring in renewed or increased planetary energy and ray energy in a more dynamic manner. In the case of Sagittarius, these energies are Venus, the Moon, and the Earth, and Pluto, mainly the Earth. 6, the planetary ruler of a hierarchy, so the hierarchical ruler. In the case of Sagittarius is Mars. A study of the above will reveal most interesting relationships and prove my point and the multiplicity of energies to which the wonderful mechanism of man can respond and to which, as evolution proceeds, he can become increasingly sensitive. So whichever chart we are reading, these 6 things are important. And we can actually add number 7, which is the moon. moon sign, in which sign the moon is located. This one we discussed earlier in this esoteric study session. And we said moon is connected with the past, with our past patterns, with our previous incarnations, or like the patterns basically, and also childhood. So I can only point out that the following ray forces pour onto the man through the medium of the following planets. Exoteric, Mercury connected with fourth ray, harmony through conflict. Jupiter, second ray, love, wisdom. Venus, fifth ray, concrete science or mind. The moon, fourth ray, harmony through conflict. Esoterically, the earth, these are connected with Sagittarius, the ones we just discussed here. Esoterically, the earth, third ray, active intelligence. Pluto, first ray, destructive aspect. Hierarchical, Mars, sixth ray, devotion. War to the death of the personality or form. So an analysis of this will show that the forces of conflict are powerful in this sign, primarily in the life of the disciple. Harmony through conflict is ceaselessly active and appears in both the orthodox and the esoteric assignments. The destructive power of the first ray, focused in Pluto, brings change, darkness, and death. To this intensity and potency of Pluto must be added the forceful and dynamic energy of the planet Mars. This brings the entire human family, as well as the individual, under the law of strife, based this time upon six-ray devotion to an ideal, high or low. All this play upon the individual born in the sign of Sagittarius, as well as upon the fourth creative hierarchy as a whole. So these planetary influences are distinctive of the sons of mind of Venusian origin. They are characteristic of the lords of sacrifice and will functioning in time and space as the fourth creative hierarchy, which is the humanity as a whole. The form life is ruled by the moon, veiling a hidden planet. These sons of mind live on Earth and thus within the body of the planetary logos and are of a definitely intelligent nature, making them lords of knowledge, achieving their goal through the light of the mind and through the method of conflict, for they are also lords of ceaseless and persevering devotion. A consideration of the above paragraph will indicate to you the importance of the sign Sagittarius in the life of the incarnating sons of God. Refers to humanity. I would point out also that through Jupiter and its influences, Sagittarius is related to three other great constellations. One is Pisces, exoterically indicating the final goal for man. Aquarius, esoterically, indicating the purpose of all material evolution and the objective of all incarnating processes. And three, Virgo, hierarchically indicating the purpose of the cosmic Christ. Both the Earth and Saturn, one a non-sacred and one a sacred planet, are exponents or expressions of the third ray of active intelligence. Earth is non-sacred, Saturn is sacred. And this ray relationship serves to bring the influences of Capricorn into relationship with Sagittarius, thus providing a field of energy wherein the one-pointed disciple can finally become the initiate. The result of all experience in any sign of the zodiac should definitely work out as an expansion of consciousness, and no matter what form this experience may take, it consummates in an initiation of some kind or another. Students would do well to regard initiation as a determining process in life and should endeavor that every life experience or cycle of life experiences should work out as an initiation into a wider field of awareness, of expression, and of resultant contact. So means whatever experiences we are going through, whatever challenges, whatever signs we are born in, whatever incarnation we are taking, all of these should lead to expansion of our consciousness and eventually lead to initiation of a kind. So Scorpio, which we are going to study after this, stands midway between two signs of balance or of equilibrium, Sagittarius and Libra. Do you remember earlier we discussed that before any um, any growth there is turbulence, and after the storm comes stillness. So that's why Scorpio, which going to be storm and is going to be where we take a lot of tests and trials, is said is mid between the two signs of balance, Sagittarius and Libra. Libra marks an interlude or a notable point of balance before the strenuous testing and trial of Scorpio. So this Libra is like stillness before the storm. Sagittarius marks another point of balance which follows after that testing, for the archer has to acquire and hold a steady eye, hand and stance prior to firing the arrow, which, when rightly directed and correctly followed, will carry him through the portal of initiation. So, first we have this silence before the storm, and then we will have storm of Scorpio, and after that again we have the balance and stillness in Sagittarius, because now after taking the test and trial we are one pointed, we know where we are going, and before we um, fire the arrow we need that stillness, we need that balance. In studying Sagittarius, it becomes obvious that one of the major underlying themes is that of direction. The archer is guiding his horse towards some one specific objective. He is sending or directing his arrow towards a desired point. He is aiming at some specific goal. So that's why Sagittarian people are goal oriented, one pointed. Now, whether it's for a materialistic objective or for a spiritual objective. This sense of direction or guidance is characteristic of the enlightened man, of the aspirant and disciple. And this is a growing recognition. When this faculty of sensitive direction is rightly developed, it becomes in the early stages an effort to identify all soul and personality activity with God's plan. And this is the last analysis, the ordered direction of God's thought. There is no true direction apart from thought. That I would have you remember that thought is power. So in Sagittarius, that power or that idea of um, understanding God's plan and putting the direction or one pointed objective to manifest the divine plan or God's plan becomes evident, especially when the man becomes an enlightened man. We are told that Sagittarius governs the thighs, which are the main center of physical power and protective strength, and also the sacral center, which provides the energy for the use of the creative powers of the physical life. This is also symbolically true. In Sagittarius, the disciple has two things to discover within himself. These are the power to make progress upon the path and to walk the way, and also the ability to create in the higher and spiritual sense. This concerns the relationship between the sacral and the throat centers. Now, this one we already know from pranic psychotherapy. These powers, the higher powers, are as yet embryonic in the earlier Sagittarian experience of the disciple, but they become more developed and potent as he psychically returns to life experience in this sign. It is interesting to note that no planet is exalted in Sagittarius and that no planet falls in this sign, because as we said, this is the sign of balance. Only one thing happens, and that is the power of Mercury is greatly lessened. For this reason, Sagittarius is esoterically regarded as a sign of balance and of no extremes. There is no great fall and no exaltation. This fact indicates that the disciple has to walk an even way between the pairs of opposites, uninfluenced by either the power of exaltation or the potency of that which falls. Neither the valley nor the heights produces any demonstrable effect. So because this is the sign of balance, there is no planet which is exalted, no planet which is the power is lessened. Mercury, which is the expression of the fourth ray and also the god of the mental processes, has his power definitely lessened in this sign, and this for two reasons, esoterically speaking. So no sign gets exalted, no sign falls, but the power of Mercury is lessened. Now, why? First, the disciple has definitely to cease identifying himself with either his own human personality and processes or with the human kingdom prior to taking initiation. His emphasis is for the future to be upon the spiritual soul and the fifth kingdom in nature. In Sagittarius, he begins to express his first stage. This involves a complete withdrawal in the personality sense from the form side of life. This again entails a point of balance. Secondly, the power of the mind, having been developed, tested, and found true in the sign Scorpio, begins to wane in its activity and the intuition begins to take its place. This is essential before the sign Capricorn is entered by the disciple and preparation for initiation begins. So because Mercury is connected with the mind, and we have already developed the mind and we have already tested in all the signs, especially Scorpio, before moving to Sagittarius. In Sagittarius, the power of intuition is being developed. So the power of the mind, and the lower mind, becomes less. Means intellect gives way to intuition. As regards the three decanates of Sagittarius, Safariel gives us the three governing planets as Mercury, the Moon, and the Sun, whilst Alan Leo gives us Jupiter, Mars, and the Sun, emphasizing, as he always does, the way of the esotericist. He usually turns in on the esoteric significances, but not always. Jupiter gives expansion, superseding Mercury, for the mercurial mind is ever a limitation, even if only a temporary one. The moon gives place to Mars, which confers the quality of devotion and the capacity to fight for an idea. This idealistic concept and method of work is always the characteristic of discipleship during the early stages of unfoldment upon the path. The sun, typifying the solar angel, remains constant both through the exoteric and esoteric process, and therefore astrology recognizes it as a constant pressure and presence. This fact in itself indicates a significant truth. The soul remains eternally present in the past, in the present, and on into the future. So that's why we have here Jupiter, Mars, and Sun. In closing, I will simplify quote to you the two keywords of the sign, both as it proceeds upon the ordinary wheel and upon the reversed wheel. Their meaning and significance are so obvious that there is no need for elucidation. The injunction to the man upon the orthodox wheel is as follows. And the word said, let food be sought. So when the person is still in the mutable cross, still one pointed, but one pointed in providing the material or ambition, the material ambitions or the selfish ambitions. So that's why it says, let food be sought. To the man upon the reversed wheel, the word goes forth, I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. May the words of this final injunction to the disciple carry meaning to the heart and the mind. So when the person is already leading the path of discipleship, the one-pointedness, the goal orientation is still there, but it's no longer selfish or materialistic, but it's towards the spiritual development. So it says, I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. So that ends the study of Sagittarius. Now we will study Scorpio, and then we will finish the study session at this time. So the opposite of Scorpio is Taurus. It's in the fixed cross, ray 4, Orthodox ruler Pluto, esoteric ruler Mars, hierarchical ruler Mercury. Here it says Orthodox ruler is Pluto, but the book believes that Orthodox ruler and esoteric ruler are both Mars. We could express this truth in another manner. God the Father, the will to manifest, initiates a creative process which is worked out through the activity of God the Son, the cosmic Christ, crucified upon the fixed cross in the heavens. So the fixed cross is actually the cross of crucifixion, is the cross of tests and trials and discipleship. The activity of God the Holy Spirit, implicit in the mutable cross, is closely allied to the previous solar system, and the energy of that divine aspect is practically entirely occupied with manipulating the forces inherited from that system and inherent in the very nature of substance itself. As regards these three persons of the divine Trinity, we might say that Aries is the focal point of the expression of the first aspect of divinity, which is the will aspect, the power aspect. Leo is the focal point for the expression of the second aspect, the love wisdom, or consciousness aspect. This primarily where humanity is concerned. Virgo is the focal point for the expression of the third aspect, that is of active intelligence. In that sign, the highest function of matter is symbolized. We will study Leo and Virgo in the next session. So Scorpio, at this particular stage of human evolution, governs the path of discipleship. Scorpio is under the influence of inflowing energy of Sirius. So energy of Sirius flows through Scorpio. This is the great star of initiation because our hierarchy and expression of the second aspect of divinity, which is the love aspect, is under the supervision or spiritual magnetic control of the hierarchy of Sirius. These are the major controlling influences whereby the cosmic Christ works upon the Christ principle in the solar system, in the planets, in man, and in the lower forms of life expression. It is esoterically called the brilliant star of sensitivity. So you have therefore Polaris, the star of direction, governing Shambhala. Later, another pole star will take the place of Polaris, owing to the interplay of forces in the universe and the general shift and movement. But the name and quality of this star will only be revealed at initiation. We have Sirius, the star of sensitivity, governing the hierarchy, and we have Alcyon, the star of the individual, governing humanity. Scorpio is the great constellation which influences the turning point both in the life of humanity and the life of the individual human being, and is under the influence of Sirius. You have consequently, in connection with the path of discipleship, the following lines of influential energy. When the person is in the path of discipleship, threading the fixed cross, the person is under the influence of these energies. First one, Sirius, working in a sevenfold manner through the seven rays and their seven groups as these constitute the active hierarchy. Two, the fixed cross, a fusion of four major energies pouring into our solar system, onto our planet and through humanity. And three, Scorpio, an aspect of the fixed cross of peculiar and specialized potency upon the path of discipleship, and preparing with its tests and trials, A, the process of reorientation, whereby a man mounts the fixed cross and leaves the mutable cross, and B, the disciple for the first, second, and third initiations. After the third initiation, its peculiar testing potency is no longer felt. So while we are taking initiation 1, 2, and 3, we will be tested in Scorpio. For the hierarchy, the distributing agency to the various kingdoms in nature, 5, Mars and Saturn. Both these planets are exceedingly potent in connection with initiation into the life of the hierarchy. Mars is potent in relation to Scorpio and Saturn in relation to Capricorn. This involves the intensified activity of the sixth and the third rays and their energies, and when these are rightly employed, there comes liberation from form control and the release of the conscious individual. Now, Aquarius relates humanity to the Pleiades and therefore to Taurus in an unusual manner. The key to this relation is to be found in the word desire, leading through the transmutative process of life experience to aspiration and finally the relinquishing of desire in Scorpio. Aquarius, Alcyon, and humanity constitute a most interesting triangle of force. Alcyon is one of the seven Pleiades and is called the star of the individual, and sometimes the star of intelligence. It was potently active during the previous solar system, wherein the third person of the Trinity was peculiarly omnipotent and active. Just as today the cosmic Christ, the second person of the Trinity, is peculiarly active in this solar system. So in this solar system, one of the main goals is to develop the love aspect, the cosmic Christ aspect, second person of the Trinity. The energies coming from Alcyon impregnated the substance of the universe with the quality of mind. As a consequence of this most ancient activity, the same force was present at the time of individualization. In this solar system, for it is in this system and primarily upon our planet, the Earth, that the major results of that early activity have made themselves felt. Two of our planets, the Earth, non-sacred, and Uranus, sacred, are directly the product of this third ray activity. So Scorpio is one of the signs of the fixed cross. It's a water sign. The element is water. Can go into the depth and see what lurks beneath the surface and bring it up into the light of day. So that's how Scorpio helps in evolution. It's like digging deep, going down deep into the depths of water. Water also connected with emotions. And then to understand what is there, what are the lessons to be learned, and then bring it up to the surface to be dealt with. So sometimes I remember in one of the quotes, Grandmaster said, many people are emotionally constipated. It's like most of the emotions we put it inside. It's pent up. So Scorpio helps to dig in, find them, bring them out, deal with them, and learn from them. Something like that. So it looks down into depths of matter, into water, brings death to what is not needed. Purpose of a Scorpio is brings out what is deep inside the water or subconscious or the emotions and deal with it. That's why it is called warrior. And it's believed that the Scorpios can make a very good therapist because they can help to dig deep, find what is inside and bring it out. Scorpios are a bit secretive. They don't show their emotions. They don't share. On a lower side, they can be manipulative because they know, they can sense, they know what is going on with the person. And that's why they can use that against them if they are on the lower side. But if they are on the higher side, then they can use it to help others. That's why they can be good therapists. Humanity is the divine messenger to the world of form. It is essentially Mercury, bringing light and life to other divine manifestations. And of these, all divine world saviors are the eternal symbols. This coming process of planetary service through the third divine center is only truly effective when Aquarius rules and when our sun is passing through that sign of the zodiac. Hence, the immense importance of the next 2000 years. So we already said in the previous session that we have already moved to the sign of Aquarius, and about 2000 years we will be in that sign. And therefore it says that's why now it's very important. These 2000 years is very important. It's the process of planetary service through the third divine center, which is now truly effective, could be very effective. Therefore, only when a man is a world server and becoming group conscious can this desired objective of manifestation begin to demonstrate. It is beginning to happen today for the first time in planetary history. It is one of the first fruits of initiation, and only in the next root race to our present Aryan race will we begin really to understand the significance of the process and the true nature of the energies to be released through the medium of humanity upon the planet. It is for this reason that Jupiter and Uranus, expressions of the second and seventh race, are the exoteric and esoteric rulers of Aquarius. Okay, so in this upcoming 2000 years, humanity is to learn group consciousness. That's why more and more we are dealing with the concept of oneness, with group consciousness, service, helping humanity. In order the better to understand the nature of discipleship and the process of stabilization and right direction, we must precede the Capricornian experience of initiation with a careful study of the spiritual implications of the sign Scorpio and of its function in providing points of crisis and moments of reorientation. And this will be of the utmost value to the earnest student. The tests of Scorpio are necessary three in nature, as they concern intimately the readiness of the threefold personality. One, to reorient itself to the life of the soul, and later, two, to evidence readiness for initiation. Three, to demonstrate sensitivity to the plan, thus becoming the one-pointed disciple in Sagittarius. The three major tests are again divided into three stages, and upon the path of discipleship, the man may find himself passing into this sign for testing and experience 9 times. So we need to pass these three tests in 3 stages. So that's why it says, in the path of discipleship, the disciple has to go through this sign of Scorpio 9 times and pass all the tests. The fact of the 3 tests which exist, each existing in their 3 stages, may convey a hint to esoteric astrologers as to the purpose of the 3 decanates into which each sign is divided. Each test, and therefore each decanate, concerns the 3 aspects which in this treatise on the 7 rays we have called life, quality, and appearance. Thus, the 3 great tests in Scorpio are in reality 9 tests, and hence the 9-headed hydra, or serpent, which is ever associated with Scorpio, and hence also the nature of the stupendous victory achieved by Hercules, the sun god, in this sign. So, the victory of Hercules over Hydra, which was a 9-headed serpent, is connected with the 9-fold tests of Scorpio that each disciple has to pass. It is interesting to note that each of the great sons of God, whose names are preeminent in the minds of men, Hercules, the Buddha, and the Christ, are associated in the archives of the Great White Lodge with 3 special signs of the zodiac, which in a peculiar manner constitute a zodiacal decanate, in each of which they passed from test to victory. In Scorpio, Hercules became the triumphant disciple. In Taurus, the Buddha achieved victory over desire and arrived at illumination. In Pisces, the Christ overcame death and became the world savior. Interest. These 3 constellations, therefore, form a triangle of initiation of profound importance because it provides those conditions and that energy which will test and perfect the 3 aspects of the personality. To that, they are true reflections of the 3 divine aspects. They concern soul and body primarily, and therefore their expression is through the mutable cross and the fixed cross, but not the cardinal cross. We might add to the above the following. 1. Scorpio carries the test right down into the physical plane life. And then, when it is faced and handled there, the life of the man is carried up into heaven. And the problem which the test involved is solved by the use of the reasoning mind. So we said we have these tests or these signs connected with three divine aspects. Scorpio connected with the test taken in the physical plane life and to develop the light or intelligent aspect of the soul. That's why it says reasoning mind. 2. Taurus governs desire and carries the test into the emotional or astral plane and carries desire sensitivity up from the form side of life into that world of sensitive perception, which we call the intuitional plane. So here we have the tests of the emotional or astral plane. And 3. Pisces carries the test into the region of the mental processes, which is the reflection of the will aspect of divinity. So Taurus was the love aspect connected with learning about emotions, passing the test of the astral plane, and Pisces passing the test of the lower mental plane, which is the reflection of the will aspect of divinity. The problem of the initiate in this sign is voiced by Christ in the words, Father, not my will, but thine be done. The tests carry the self-will of the personality up into the region of the divine will, and the result is inspiration and the emergence of the world savior. Now it's interesting that the first one, which is developing the mind, reasoning mind, the intelligent aspect, is connected with the physical plane. Sometimes you may think the intelligence should be connected with the mental plane. But this is interesting because the thought power influence the physical world and the willpower influence the thought. So when we will to do something, we create a thought and the thought will end into activity. There is an interesting article about this in the Pronoworld website. I think it's connected with the differences between love, will, and intelligence. And there is an explanation about this. If you want to know more, you can refer to the article in the website. So the three tests in Scorpio also concern the three aspects of the human being as they fuse and blend upon the physical plane. They are first of all the test of appetite. This appetite is the natural tendency which are inherent in the animal nature. And these are mainly three: sex, physical comfort, and money as concretized energy. They are secondly the tests connected with desire and the astral plane. These are subtler in nature, producing automatic effects upon the physical plane. They are not inherent in the animal nature but are imposed by the desire nature and are again three in number: fear, hatred, and ambition or desire for power. Then there are thirdly the tests of the lower critical mind, which are pride, separativeness, and cruelty. Remember that the worst kind of cruelty is not of a physical nature, but is more mental in character, mental criticism. Therefore, you have in the category of that which must be tested and proved to be non-existent the following categories, which I am re-enumerating because of their basic importance. So we will read that now. So that's why we have 9 tests, because it's connected with 3 things: physical, emotional, mental, and each is 3 things. In relation to physical, we have sex, physical comfort, and money as concretized energy. In emotional plane, we have fear, hatred, ambition. And in the mental plane, we have pride, separativeness, and mental cruelty. Okay, now more explanation about them. Sex, the relation of the pairs of opposites. These can be selfishly utilized or divinely blended. Physical comfort is connected with life conditions selfishly appropriated. Money, selfishly cornered. 2. connected with emotions. Fear, which conditions activity today. Hate, which is a factor in conditioning relationships. Ambition, conditioning objectives. And three, pride. These are for mental. Pride, which is intellectual satisfaction, making the mind the barrier to soul control. Separativeness, which is the isolated attitude and which makes the mind the barrier to right group relations. And cruelty, which is satisfaction with personality methods and which makes the mind the instrument of the sense of power. These tests need to be taken in the sign Scorpio, which are ninefold, 3 by 3, multiplied 3 multiplied by 3. When these faults are realized and are overcome, the result is twofold: the establishing of right relations with the soul and also with the environment. These two results are the goal of all tests in Scorpio. The keynotes of these signs are therefore test, trial, and triumph. So we go through test and trial, and then we have to come out triumphant. And this will give us more relationship or closer relationship with the higher soul and with our environment. They can also be called struggle, strength, and Sagittarian attitudes. Another angle of the experience in Scorpio can be covered by two words: recapitulation and reorientation. These tests and trials are ever self-initiated. The disciple puts himself into the positive or conditioning environment wherein the trials and the discipline are unavoidable and inevitable. The keynote of Scorpio is triumph. This is its major expression upon the physical plane. As a result of struggle and of victory, the whole divine man is anchored upon the physical plane with such accuracy and clarity that there is no escape from environing conclusions of the disciple's family, friends, and groups that he is a disciple. From that angle, he is meticulously watched. He learns the meaning of the word example. He is pillared by those who are onlookers and the first conscious stages toward group awareness and group response, plus group service, and are now taken. Such is the outcome and reward of the experience in Scorpio. It is in this sign that the prodigal son comes to himself, and having eaten of the husks of life and having exhausted the resources of worldly desire and ambition, he said, I will arise and go to my father. Now, White said previously that all these tests are self-imposed. One reason is after moving and treading the mutable cross, eons of life after life, incarnation after incarnation, and after exhausting here all the resources of worldly desire and ambition, in Scorpio, the person decides that I want to go back to Father. And then reorientation happens. So the person himself decides that no more this life, I want to grow spiritually, and then moves to the fixed cross, and the tests and trials begin. There are two such major crises in the life of the aspirant. When the intelligent man of the world comes to himself and then reorients himself to the soul and its requirements, this leads to the tests in Scorpio. And two, when the initiate of the third degree, upon a higher turn of the spiral, reorients himself to the monad and passes through most subtle tests to certain undefinable and spiritual recognition. Upon these, we need not enlarge. So when we decide we want to lead a life of a disciple, reorientation happens, test starts in a Scorpio, we go to the fixed cross, and after taking all the tests, when we are initiate of third degree, then reorientation happen again, and this time we go to the cardinal cross. There is little for me to add here in connection with the fact that Scorpio is upon one of the four arms of the fixed cross. In the study of previous signs, much and the fixed cross has already been covered, and there is no need for me to repeat the information here. So we already discussed about the fixed cross in detail. Desire in Taurus becomes a spiritual aspiration in Scorpio. The darkness of the experience in Scorpio becomes illumination in Taurus. For it must never be forgotten that where the pairs of opposites are concerned, they gain and profit from each other. For there is a direct line of force and of contact between the two. If you remember, we always say when we study one sign, we also need to study the opposite sign because they relate to each other. The experience of one becomes the benefit for the other, and vice versa. This is a fact which is seldom recognized. We come now to a consideration of the rulers which govern the sign Scorpio. Their influence is potent in the lives of the average or undeveloped man who responds more easily to the planetary influence in the 12 houses of his personality horoscope than does the more advanced man who is coming under the direct influence of the zodiacal sign. So these planets, especially the exoteric one, influence the person who is not yet a disciple in the path of discipleship, but when the person goes into the path of discipleship, the influence of zodiacal signs itself become more, and also the esoteric ruler. Through these rulers, two rays are brought into a potent controlling position in Scorpio. They are the sixth ray of devotion and the fourth ray of harmony through conflict. Mars and Mercury control, and Mars is particularly active owing to the fact that Mars is both the orthodox planet, controlling the personality in Scorpio, and also the esoteric planet, conditioning the unfoldment of the disciple. Mars is both the exoteric and esoteric rulers. Mars is the dominating factor in the tests and trials of the disciple prior to the experience in Sagittarius and the initiation in Capricorn, and this for the following reasons. First, Mars is definitely the planet which rules and controls the physical vehicle. Mars appears first of all as the orthodox ruler in Aries, the sign in which the first move is made towards bringing about objective manifestation or physical incarnation. In Scorpio, the result of all the struggles carried forward during the seemingly endless pilgrimage around the zodiac or wheel of life is brought to a point of climax, again through the activity of Mars, which has not appeared actively in the intervening signs between Aries and Scorpio, as far as the reversed wheel is concerned. The disciple has now to demonstrate the strength, character, and quality which he has unfolded and developed within himself during his long pilgrimage. He started in Aries with Mars ruling and the great war between the dualities. So basically, when we are in the mutable cross, we are learning more. And when we are in the fixed cross, we need to show that we have learned. So we have to take the tests. Mars is connected with conviction, discipline, power, and fearlessness. Being able to stand up for others even in the face of harm to oneself. Scorpio can go into the depth, the unconscious mind and subconscious mind, and bring out whatever needs to be learned. So that needs courage, and Mars gives the courage. Mars has the strength and courage to move into those hidden depths so that Scorpio can emerge and be triumphant. So Mars is both the exoteric and esoteric rulers of Scorpio. It says warrior, which is, you remember we said Mars is connected with war. It's the god of war. That's why Scorpio's keyword is warrior, am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. So in Scorpio, with the same planet ruling his interior life, the war is on. And in this case, Mars rules not only the physical body, but the entire form vehicle, which we call the personality in the three worlds. So it means the incarnated soul, physically, emotionally, mentally. All aspects of the lower nature are involved in this crisis. For Mars is the esoteric ruler in Scorpio, and the test applied involves the form nature, gross and subtle, integrated and potent. Mars therefore rules Aries from the orthodox angle and Scorpio esoterically. The effect of Mars is largely mass effect and group results, producing great struggles but leading finally to great revelation. In Aries, it is the final revelation of the nature of knowledge and the purpose of incarnation. In Scorpio, it is the revelation of the vision of liberation and service. In Sagittarius, it is revelation of the purpose of soul control over the lower kingdoms in nature via the human center of energy. It must consequently never be forgotten that Mars establishes relations between the opposites and is the beneficent and not a malefic factor, as is so often supposed. Okay, so since Mars is the god of war and Mars is both exoteric and esoteric rulers of Scorpio, we have really the battlefield in all planes, physically, emotionally, mentally. That's why all the trials, the ninefold trials. Secondly, Mars is closely related to sex, which is an aspect of the pairs of opposites, and its effect is also definitely to vitalize the bloodstream. It vitalizes, purifies, and stimulates all aspects and organisms in the body via the bloodstream. It will be obvious to you, therefore, how the tests in Scorpio and the activity of Mars are potent to arouse the entire lower nature and bring about its final rebellion and the last stand, so to speak, of the personality against the soul. It is Mars who brings the word Arjuna into the active fight. The whole man is then engaged, and the quarrel of the sexes is resolved in its highest aspect through the battle between the highly developed personality or form nature and the soul, which seeks to be ultimate controlling factor. So the battle of Arjuna is connected with Mars and Scorpio. The color assigned to Mars is, as you know, red, and this is a correspondence to the color of the bloodstream, and hence also the association of Mars with passion, with anger, and a sense of general opposition. The sense of duality is exceedingly powerful, hence also the necessity for the entire life of man to be swung into the conflict, leaving no side of human nature uninvolved. Hence again the need for the disciple to carry his physical nature, his emotional or desire nature, and his mental processes up into heaven. So that's why you see the battlefield is involving the whole human system. This takes place as a consequence of overcoming the serpent of evil by the means of the serpent of wisdom, which is the esoteric name of often given to the soul. A study of the processes of death as the sign Scorpio conditions them, and the process of death as we see them working out in the sign Pisces would be of very real value. Death through the influences of Pluto and death through the influences of Mars are widely different. Pluto brings death to Pisces, Mars brings death in Scorpio. Death in Pisces through the energy of Pluto is transformation, a transformation so vital and so basic that the ancient one is no longer seen. He sinks to the depth of the ocean of life. He descends into hell, but the gates of hell hold him not. The new and the living one lives below that which has held him down throughout the ages and rises from the depth unto the heights, close to the throne of God. So the death in Pisces through Pluto is transformative. The connection of these words with Christ, the present world Savior, is obvious in their implications, and yet they were written in our archives over 7,000 years ago. Death in Scorpio is of a different nature and is also described in the same ancient writing in the following words. Ancient one dies by drowning. Such is the test. The waters envelop him, and there is no escape. He drowns. The fires of passion are then quenched. The life of desire ceases its appeal, and to the bottom of the lake he now descends. Later he reascends to earth, where he waits where the white horse wait is coming, and this he mounts proceeding towards the second death. So you see, we try to conquer all the tests, all the desires also of the physical body, emotional body, mental body. We get drowned and then we ascend again on earth. The white horse awaits his coming. This is what we just discussed. After Scorpio, we go to Sagittarius. And then he mounts, proceeding towards the second death. So after Sagittarius, we go to Capricorn, we move up to the mountain, and then the second death comes in Pisces, which is liberation. The reference here to Sagittarius is clear. The disciple, after the death of the personality and after the killing out of desire, goes on towards Pisces, where again he dies unto an eternal resurrection. In Scorpio, there is the death of the personality, the incarnated soul, with its longings, desires, ambitions, and pride. In Pisces, there is the death of all attachments and the liberation of the soul for service upon an universal scale. Scorpio is also most interestingly connected with the constellation Cancer through the influence of the sixth ray, for it should be remembered that that ray is also expressing itself through Neptune, but in a spiritual and esoteric manner. Neptune governs Cancer esoterically. The significance is therefore clear, for Cancer is the sign of birth. It is the door into incarnation and the sign of generation. Scorpio is the sign of sex and for regeneration, and birth is ever the intended result of the sex relation. That's how Scorpio is connected with Cancer. Father spirit and mother matter, when brought together, produce the son. The tests and difficulties and pains of this era are symptoms or indications of the entering into manifestation of the new civilization and culture. Scorpio and Aquarius are also in a peculiar relation to each other through the planet Mercury, which governs the human family, and through Neptune, which rules Cancer, thus governing expression upon the physical plane. The point which I am here making is that through the influence of Mercury and Neptune, the group consciousness of the individual is developed, so that through the tests in Scorpio and the experience in Aquarius, the disciple emerges on the physical plane into the position of a world server. All world servers are decentralized workers and are governed by the need and the reactions of the mass or group. Okay, we are almost done with Scorpio, so if you are okay, we just continue and finish, I think, in 5 more minutes. Cancer, being the door to incarnation, has a close relation to Scorpio through Neptune and Mars, both of whom are expressions of the sixth ray energy. In Cancer, you have the devotion of the soul, developed to such an extent that the urge to manifest overcomes all other urges, and the process of incarnation impose themselves upon the soul. In Scorpio, that same spirit of devotion is turned into the reverse direction, and the urge towards liberation and the desire to tread the path of return becomes so strong that the disciple submits to tests, reverses his position upon the wheel of life, and assumes the attitude of the observer in contradiction to that of the experiencer. So you see how Cancer and Scorpio are connected both together to the sixth ray. Sixth ray is the ray of devotion. So in Cancer, that ray of devotion to life, to experience, to reincarnation keeps bringing man into incarnation and life. And in Scorpio, that desire to liberation makes Scorpio accept the test and trial, to go through the test and trial so that the soul can be liberated. So all identification sees new trends towards higher, subtler, and more spiritual identifications begin to appear, and then Neptune and Mars begin to play their part. So therefore, in the life of the man who is working whilst in incarnation with his sun in Scorpio or with Scorpio rising, these are Aries connected with cardinal cross, initiating impulse, connected with life. Cancer is in cardinal cross, connected with focused impulse, connected with incarnation. Scorpio is in fixed cross, reversing impulse, connected with return. Aquarius fixed cross, connected with group impulse, leading to service. So I would like to touch upon another interesting point which will serve to demonstrate the potential of Scorpio and its energies in the life of the disciple. Scorpio is one of the four arms of the fixed cross of the heavens. As you well know, the planets which will rule and condition him in some aspect or other of his nature are the fixed cross. All these planets are connected with the signs in the fixed cross. So we have Venus, which is connected, Orthodox ruler of Taurus, fifth ray, Vulcan, esoteric and hierarchical ruler of Taurus, first ray, the Sun, all the rulers in Leo, second ray, Mars, Orthodox and esoteric ruler of Scorpio, we have sixth ray, Mercury, hierarchical ruler of Scorpio, gives fourth ray, Uranus gives seventh ray, Jupiter second, and the moon fourth ray. So here we have all the rays apparent except one. From this tabulation, it will appear that the influence of only one ray, that of the third ray of active intelligence, is missing in the fixed cross. All the other rays pour through vertically and horizontally into the man's nature and his environment. Life, quality, and appearance are all tested. But as the entire experience has to be fought out subjectively and lifted up into the air, finally and raised into the world of spiritual values where all problems must be solved in the light of the intuition and by the soul, the stimulation of the intellect and the focusing of the disciple's attention upon the physical plane is not desirable. That's why ray 3 is not there. Therefore, the influence of the third ray is omitted or occultly deflected, as it is called, except in so far that the substance of the brain is automatically conditioned by the third ray, which is the subconscious ruler of matter. This pouring of the six potencies is that which provides the setting and conditions of the tests. All these ray energies express themselves as the active sub-rays of the ray upon which the soul of the disciple is found. Hence the necessity to ascertain the ray of the soul prior to casting the horoscope and setting of the chart. So in connection with the vertical and horizontal life of the fixed cross, it is instructive to note that the vertical life of the man upon that cross is ever Aquarius Leo. This indicates that the self-centered individual in Leo learns the lesson of the cross and becomes decentralized, group conscious, and given to service. The horizontal arm is Taurus Scorpio, indicating that desire for materiality is finally superseded by desire for spiritual values, and this is demonstrated through the tests in Scorpio. Earth and water must be blended and related and it is this truth connected with these two signs of the zodiac which lies behind all teachings upon baptism and purification. The earthly material desires of Taurus must in due time be brought under the influence of the purifying water in Scorpio. Baptism by water, a name for the second initiation, needs a preparatory period of testing and purification. And this the experience in Scorpio is intended to give. Likewise, fire and air, which is Aquarius and Leo, must also be blended, and thus the four elements as well as 6 out of the 7 rays must all play their part in conditioning the man in Scorpio for the final stages of the path. First, we have purification by water, then we have purification by fire. The place of the planets in this sign is also most revealing and in line also with the general purpose of the experience in Scorpio as outlined above. Uranus is exalted in Scorpio, The power of Venus is lessened in this sign whilst the moon falls. What do these facts symbolically portray? Uranus is the planet whose characteristics are the scientific mind, which at this stage of disciple's career means that he can begin to live the occult life, and the way of divine knowledge can take the place of the mystic way of feeling. It means also that knowledge can be transmuted into the way of wisdom and of light. This necessarily brings in the will aspect or the influence of the first ray, blended with the seventh ray, producing the desired manifestation upon a physical plane. Uranus therefore initiates a new order of life and conditions, and this, when developed in the life of the disciple, in its turn produces an understanding of the causes of things and the desire to change the old order. This produces the reversal of the will. Carried forward to its logical conclusion, the influence of Uranus finally produces an unfolded spiritual consciousness in contradistinction to the human. For this reason, Uranus is exalted in this sign and assumes a position of power and of directed influence. So Uranus is exalted because it creates and it brings about the energies to change the old form into the new form, the old order into the new order. Venus, the intelligent mind, has its power lessened in this sign because the intellect, having been developed and used, must now be subordinated to a higher power of the soul. For that reason, the third ray was not apparent in the fixed cross also. The son of mind, the solar angel, must now manifest as the son of God. The moon is here regarded as functioning in its true nature and therefore as expressing symbolically that which is dead. The moon here stands for the personality, and in the final victory in Scorpio, the personality is entirely vanished and defeated. Desire is killed, for it is true expressed desire of some kind that personality demonstrates life. So because desire is killed, moon also energy is lessened. The three decanates and their rulers are given very differently by various astrologers. One group posits Mars and Sun and Venus as ruling the decanates of Scorpio, while another regards Mars, Jupiter, and the Moon as the three rulers. Perhaps the truth lies in both conclusions if we view them from the esoteric standpoint of or from that of the undeveloped man. I cannot indicate to you the essential truth because a new planet is arising in this sign, and it is for man to discover and rightly place it within the circumference of the great wheel. So we have two different groups. One says Mars, Sun, and Venus. Another one says Mars, Jupiter, and Moon. And the book doesn't mention which one is correct and says a new planet is arising. So we probably need to put that in. The keywords of this sign are significant and illuminating, deception and triumph, control by Maya, and control by the soul, conflict and peace. Such are the hidden secrets of the sign, and these are summed up for all disciples in the two keywords. Upon the ordinary wheel, wherein the soul is found blind and apparently helpless, the world goes forth in the following terms. And the word said, let Maya flourish, and let deception rule. Upon the reversed wheel, the soul chants or sings the words, warrior, I am, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. So as we discussed, because Scorpio has the ability to really dig deep and see what is beneath, if in a lower side, they can manipulate. Yes, they can manipulate people because they know what is underneath. They can understand. So, and the word said, let Maya flourish and let deception rule. So they can become, can lead to deception. And once we pass all the ninefold tests and we go to the path of discipleship and we are growing, moving towards liberation, then It says, warrior I am, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. So we will find whatever needs to be worked on, whatever test needs to be passed. We will bring it up, we will see it, we will pass, and we will become triumphant. So that becomes the keywords in the reversed path, in the reversed, what you call, orientation, in the fixed cross. So that ends the study of Scorpio. So next time we will discuss about 3 more signs, which will be Libra, Virgo, and Leo. Thank you so much. Sorry it took half an hour more, and the book is a bit complicated. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible to be understood. And there are so many things that are important to discuss. So I'm finding it difficult to remove them from the study so that at least we discuss about them, so you know about them. Maybe in the future that would become, they will become helpful for you. Thank you so much. Let's finish with a short invocation. Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, and all the great, great ones, thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection. Thank you for illuminating our minds with thanks and in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly. Inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Thank you so much. Atma Namaste. See you in the next study session. Bye.